Alright, MrSotko here, and welcome back to another Company Heroes 2 replay cast, and today it is a 1 vs 1 on Angoville between our blue U.S. Forces player, Retaliation, and up top we have our red Wehrmacht player, Major Sturmgeist, and it is Angoville. We have our 2 victory points on the right side of the map, along with our fuel point and our munitions point, and the other 3 on the other side of the map, a victory point, a fuel point, and the munitions. 3 rear echelon troops coming out for our U.S. Forces player. I haven't seen that in a little while, and we have Assault Grenadiers for our other player. Also a pretty interesting tactic. So two Assault Grenadiers coming out now, and the Engineers going down to the center, now moving off to the left side of the map. Meanwhile, the Assault Grenadier is going to be taking the right side of the map. We have 1 rear echelon troop moving over to the right side, and we have 1 and 2 moving over to the left side here. So sort of an opposite play. Now a rifleman coming on out for the U.S. Forces. Soon the fuel point will belong to the U.S. Forces pretty quickly there, and the Pioneers still working on that first territory point. Assault Grenadiers have taken both of those territory points up top there, taking the victory point, and was going for that munitions point, but unfortunately got distracted here by the rear echelon troops. Not going to provide too much of a problem here for those Assault Grenadiers. Going to force the retreat on them pretty quickly here. And where is that rifleman going? Looks like he's going off to the left side as well. And 1 rear echelon troop here versus the 1 Pioneer. But we have some additional rear echelon troops now moving on up to secure this area. 1 rear echelon troop falls, 2 Pioneers fall. And looks like the Pioneer is going to lose out on that fight eventually there. And now that fuel point being taken by the Assault Grenadiers. And now taking the right side as well. Still nothing coming out for the Wehrmacht just yet, saving up some money for something or another. And the rear echelon troops taking that victory point. The territory point being taken by riflemen, and the rear echelon troops spread out to the munitions point there as well. So taking quite a bit of territory here for our U.S. Forces player on the left side, and the right side belonging to the Wehrmacht. So a fairly even battle so far, 37 and 23 to 16 and 17. So actually quite a bit more for our Wehrmacht player at the moment. And now the riflemen going to be taking that territory point right in front of the Wehrmacht base. And so with these rear echelon troops as well. The Pioneers are coming back out, but not going to be enough here. And he's already going to battle phase 1 and getting that going right off the bat. And that's probably what he was saving up for. Maybe he's just using some kind of specific teching strategy. And just trying to work with the bare bones with these 2 Assault Grenadiers and his Pioneer to take things. And actually it's working out pretty well for him, as the right side of the map here is being taken just by 2 Assault Grenadiers alone. Which leaves him with an abundance of manpower to be used on something later. And now rear echelon troops coming around the back side of the Assault Grenadiers, along with that rifleman as well. And we'll see what happens here. Looks like the Assault Grenadier is going to try and go over to the left side, try and take some of that territory, but sees it's some rear echelon troops get inside the building there. And rear echelon troops coming back to try and cut off our Wehrmacht's resources. And Assault Grenadiers battling out. Rear echelon troops at both buildings here, and rear echelon troops getting torn up pretty good here. Down to 2 in there, and up here the riflemen have gotten inside as well. There goes the grenades from the Assault Grenadiers, and actually takes out quite a bit of them. Looks like one of the grenades actually landed outside the house, and they all ate them pretty good there. So very, very low health, but I think the Assault Grenadiers are going to have to get out of there pretty soon. But meanwhile, the Assault Grenadiers have successfully forced out the rear echelon troops. Probably looks like they killed the rear echelon troops down there. And now these 2 Assault Grenadiers here in a little bit of trouble. Down to 1 man, and needs to leave that squad out of there as soon as possible and starts to retreat. But still could potentially lose that to a couple lucky RNG shots. Rifleman garrison the other house there, and now trying to move away from these Assault Grenadiers, trying to put some range in between them. And rear echelon troops get in the back there, and Assault Grenadiers still doing work here, and just 2 men left though, so not going to last too much longer. A 2-2-2 is out on the field and firing into the house at the rear echelon's garrison, and now just 1 man left in that squad running away as well. Now some Panzer Grenadiers appear to be coming out for the Wehrmacht. Pathfinders for the U.S. Forces here. Pathfinders get inside the house there to fire at that 222 engineer just down to one man, and reinforcing the assault grenadiers there. And that 222 just firing away. Troops a little bit outranged. But meanwhile, we have a lieutenant here. It's going to start taking that fuel point back. Pathfinders fall back a little bit to take this territory point away from that 222 there. And 222 is chasing him down a little bit, and looks like the line of sight was broken. And I'm going to get behind some cover there and go camo for a little bit. Meanwhile, the lieutenant going to take that fuel point, but 222 going to come up and try and take out a couple of them, but it looks like they could stand there for a little while. They're in semi-decent cover inside that bush line there. 50 cal is out in the, on the map and moving up towards that 222 area. And here come the assault grenadiers, all reinforced now. And heavy machine gun looks like he's going to try and garrison inside this building here, but the assault grenadiers are already here, and if they just turn around on that a machine gun and sort of do circles around this, they can get away from the arc of fire, but they are not doing that. They're right in the face of it. We're going to throw some grenades in there, and looks like it wasn't enough. Going to have to retreat those. Now the 222 forces the lieutenant to run, but did get that fuel point, and now down to just a few men in those squads. Again, you can pretty much juke out an MG gun inside of a house like that, as it takes a while for it to set up and actually turn the other way. So if you just keep your units on the move, you can pretty much avoid that. And now going to run right into the fire of that 50 cal again here with this 250 half track with the Panzer Grenadiers. But firing into the house and takes out that HMG there and barely got out. It looks like it actually got out, but it's not attainable. That's sort of weird. And now the AA truck destroys that 250 half track, forcing the Panzer Grenadiers to run on home.
Heavy truck waiting for deployment.
And half track now in chase of those Panzer Grenadiers. Looks like another one was lost there.
Boys, you ready to roll out? We're at full strength.
And now the U.S. forces has the majority of the map here, 2 of the victory points, and now just needs to acquire this victory point here to have all 3 of them. And Pathfinder's going to take the house here to stop any troops from moving along. And looks like some troops over here. We have the Pioneers trying to take the fuel point, but the AA truck is on the way. And this will actually be fixed in the upcoming patch on, I believe, October 29th. It will no longer be able to fire over the cabin, so you'll actually have to turn it around to fire it like you're supposed to. And the assault grenadiers now moving on the house. Pathfinders are really low on health, so they're going to lose out pretty quickly here. And some other assault grenadiers coming this way to deal with the riflemen. Firing into the house. The Pathfinder's all the way on the other side of the house, but still taking quite a bit of damage. And just one man in that squad, and he's so low, but I don't think they're going to get him. And rear echelon squad has taken that right side munitions point as well. Territory point being taken by the assault grenadiers. And that AA half track does pretty wicked damage to that 222. And 222 did a little to the half track, but not nearly enough. And now going to repair that on up. We have the assault grenadiers. And right in the face of that AA half track. And going to take quite a bit of damage here, already getting suppressed. And took a little bit of damage to that half track, just not going to be enough with those MP40s. And a Pack 40 now out on the map to deal with that half track. 1 victory point belonging to the Wehrmacht so far, 444 to 458. So a fairly even game. Right now the U.S. forces has quite a bit more in terms of resources, 58 and 36 to 26 and 16. So a definitive advantage for the U.S. forces. As long as you can keep this up, you'll have quite the abundance of resources in the end to buy the valuable tanks and such. And Lieutenant firing back at that 222, but not going to really happen. And going to do a little bit of damage on it, can blink it. We're going to take a little bit more damage on that Lieutenant than that 222 is going to take. And the Pioneers now moving up. And in close range there, forces the Lieutenant on out of there. Rear echelon squads are taking the territory point right in front of the base, but a couple assault grenadiers moving in on the situation, and that pack decides to fire as well. 222 now moving over. And Pioneers were trying to take this back and do successfully take it, and now can retreat out of there. You do have that Pack 40 here to deal with that AA half track. And if it just moves forward a little bit, but unfortunately there's really nothing in front of that pack to hold off any troops that are moving up there. And 222 takes a shot and now trying to back out, and looks like it was an anti-tank rifle grenade perhaps from that rifleman there. And now switching out units, and units all taking all kinds of damage, just grenades everywhere, and forces the retreat on that rear echelon squad. Now some rear echelon and riflemen inside this building here. And assault grenadiers are forced to retreat. The other assault grenadiers are behind the situation there. Could throw grenades again, but could easily exit that house before they blow up. And now that 222 needs repaired. Looks like the engineers are on that now. Captain now moving down to try and stall this territory point from being taken. And right now our Wehrmacht player in a little bit of trouble here. Doesn't have too much resources. And U.S. Forces has a commanding map presence, and as soon as these guys go to retreat, they're going to run right in front of this half track and in front of all of this fire in here, and may actually lose these assault grenadiers down to 1, and I would not be surprised to see that guy die, and he did, so lost a whole squad there, and I think it was a 2-star squad, so it's a fair loss. And now assault grenadiers trying to move forward, and just getting eaten up by that half track there. And so much damage coming out of that half track so far. 10 kills. And 222 now firing away at the house. And got to back up. Captain fires. And second bazooka misses there. And Pack trying to get in position, but that half track is all the way over here, in between all these buildings here. So it's hard to get that Pack around where he needs to be. You know, the so Grenadiers moving across and moving after the rifleman. And there's a lot of firepower here. He needs a little bit more than this, and he's floating quite a bit of manpower. Could easily bring in some more assault grenadiers, or just some grenadiers in general. That would probably be a good idea. Just have some grenadiers, and at least you could Panzerfaust it at the very least, which would force it back and have to repair it with the crew. Would certainly be a better bet than assault grenadiers.
The sector has been cut off.
And Lieutenant now taking this territory point here. And meanwhile, Pioneers are taking the fuel point on the left side, so going to have to react to that over there. And rear echelon squad going to take the final part of the cutoff point there. And no more resources for the Wehrmacht. Very, very low. 6 and 4 right now, so losing out very, very quickly here. And now running on back home. These assault grenadiers just really not doing the job. And assault grenadiers are really good. I find a love-hate relationship with them. As soon as there's any kind of armor on the map, they're just entirely useless. So this is why grenadiers just kind of scale a little bit better. But the assault grenadiers, of course, are better at chucking them grenades into buildings and such. But it's sort of a toss-up, if you will. And Stug, firing into this house and doing some damage, but doesn't have too much resources. 6 and 4, so he basically owns almost nothing. He owns this and this here for a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's even connected. It is not connected. As you can see, he needs this point here to connect it, so he's getting nothing from those 2 points over here, which doesn't really make sense because that seems like it should connect. And Stug now chasing that AA half track and shoots it right in the frontal armor, down to half health. And 222 is now out and chasing after the M5. Stewart, 222 should go after the half track, but gets destroyed instantly there. So either way, was outmatched by either one of these vehicles. And Stug now backing up. And does a little bit of damage there. Looks like it actually hit the ground, but still damaged it. A tiny scotch. And paratroopers now about to eat that short-barreled gun. Now behind pretty good cover against the Pioneers. Pioneers taking a lot of damage, gonna have to retreat out of there, and assault grenadiers have to stand up here and take that back. And Pack has been brought up a little bit again, but I don't even think this Pack has fired at all. Only a little bit there, only about halfway to level 1 veterancy, but I don't think it's actually ever struck an armored vehicle this whole game. And now Stug backing up here, takes a couple shots from the bazookas there. Looks like 1 or 2 holding that from those rear echelon troops. And so backs up out of range of those bazookas, now firing away into the house. House doesn't have much integrity left and will collapse pretty soon here. But rear echelon gets out of there and backs up. But yeah, indeed, it is a double bazooka rear echelon squad. And And now Rifleman taking the final spot over here, this territory point, which it really doesn't matter so much because he doesn't own this one anyway, which is the first one you've got to grab, as it's the cutoff point for that side of the map. And now U.S. forces pushing up on these assault grenadiers pretty quickly here. And I'll fire it out of the windows, but not really going to be able to last too long. The house about to fall sooner or later here. And with all these bazookas striking it in that AA half-track, I don't think it's going to last all that much longer. And we have a couple bazookas in this building here that are just firing point blank. Down to 2 men there, has to retreat. And we'll take some damage getting out of there by that AA half-track, down to 1 man. And I just don't think the Wehrmacht going to do it this time. The Stug backing up and doing pretty good damage to these troops here, but it looks like the troops are just pushing forward and just going to push right at that Stug, going to take it out and finishes that off. And a bazooka has fallen on the ground there. The Pioneers gladly picked that up. And looks like they tried to fire it at the half-track there, or perhaps it hit the Pathfinders. It dropped a M1919. Or maybe a bar there on the ground. And bazooka has been fallen on the ground there, but it is in the safety of that bunker line, so anything that tries to pick that up going to get pinned at least. Assault Grenadiers back here trying to deal with the lieutenant. And now Assault Grenadier trying to get out of there. Just 3 men left trying to take this territory point, but not going to happen. Now a Major coming up to try and deal with this. And that AA half-track just so much, doing so much work this game. That AA half-track so good. And M5 Stuart now battling out with the Assault Grenadiers. Again, see, the Assault Grenadiers just are completely and utterly helpless. If he at least had Grenadiers, although he doesn't have too much munitions right now because he doesn't have any of the map, so he has absolutely no income, basically. But if he had Grenadiers, he could have, at the very least, Faust this M5 Stuart, which would discourage it from being in the area and force it out and force it to repair, which would give him time to collect some of these territory points here. And now going to recrew that pack and fires at the M5 Stuart. Almost takes it out there. Very unlucky of the Wehrmacht there not to take that out with a sliver of health. And look at the Pathfinders there firing away on that Pack 40 and decrews that. Meanwhile, engineers over here taking the victory point. But it may be too little too late, as they don't have too much on the map really, and used his last amount of income there to get another Stug on the map. And just producing Assault Grenadiers here to get the job done, which I think is just like putting the square peg in the round hole at this point in the game. And it's just really not just doing anything at all. And the Assault Grenadiers just not really going to cut it here, as this is a long-range battle now between these Pathfinders and the Riflemen. And so those Assault Grenadiers have to run so close to be effective, and by the time you get close enough to be effective, you've lost 1 or 2 men out of the squad. And looks like an airdrop coming here right on this pack, and pack going to stand still and fire. And the strafe there hits that Stug and finishes that off. And the pack gets smoke all over it. Can't see now. And we'll need the ground fire on this Sherman, but it's moving a little bit too quick. And now Sherman just going to go in the base here, going to harass the Wehrmacht base. And GG's out. So a pretty decent play from our U.S. Forces player. Although all those Assault Grenadiers, I just think was the wrong choice. On this map, Assault Grenadiers work on certain maps. I sort of have a love-hate relationship with them. Sometimes they work really good, and then sometimes they're just so miserable and disappointing. So it's really a 50-50. And I suppose the Assault Grenadiers are good in this area right here, and perhaps like over here as well. But in these open areas, you just can't run them so close to ranged units. By the time you get close to a ranged unit to really be effective, you've already lost a man or 2 in the squad. And then Assault Grenadiers over here are, well, pretty much useless as well, just because it's just so open. You're going to take so much damage. So... But I really like this AA half-track. It did so much damage. I think this is a new one, as it only has 1 kill. Maybe he actually lost one earlier. I didn't actually see it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this replay, and I'll see you guys next time.